Welcome to Conversations with Verdel Jones. I'm your host, Verdel Jones. Being an educator at heart, I'm dedicated to sharing conversations that inform and enlighten in the hopes that you learn something you may not have known. Let me tell you, today we have a very special edition of Conversations with Verdel Jones. We are taping in front of a live studio audience, and I would like to welcome the students from my alma mater, SUNY Farmingdale. Thank you for coming. I would also like to give a special thank you to Dr. Lynn Elfie, the director of the TRIO Student Support Services Program at SUNY Farmingdale, and to Tiffany Ward, Senior Educational Counselor for the TRIO Student Support Services at Farmingdale. I want to thank the both of them for allowing us to put this program together. We are so excited. So we have a very special guest here. And let me just tell you just a little bit about our special guest. It's Linnita Hosten. She's an author of The College Strategy, How Ambitious Students Create Workplace Value While on Campus. She's a dynamic speaker, and she's passionate about helping students. So we are so excited to welcome Miss Linnita Hosten to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we met a few months ago, back in November. You were a participant on the Author Showcase, and one of the things that I just loved about you was your dynamic presentation and the passion that you exuded when you talked about helping students in college.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned, you wrote a book called The College Strategy. Fabulous book.
Thank
and
you.
our studio audience is going to get a copy of that book today, so that's
exciting.
So tell us, why did you write the book, The College Strategy?
I wrote The College Strategy because there are some conversations that I feel are being left out when students prepare for college, from that conversation happening from their households and the conversation happening between the classroom while they're in high school. There's a missing link as far as preparing students for their career path. And so I thought The College Strategy would be a part of that link to add to the conversation. And I get that most students don't read, and so how can you make it readable and translatable so that they would be led to pick it up?
And you know what, the great thing about the book, you're right, it is easy to go through, and there's so many strategies in there that are very straightforward.
Yes.
So it's kind of a workbook.
It is. It is a working, I call it a toolkit.
Right,
A
exactly.
toolkit.
So a student, at what year in their college experience should they pick up The College Strategy?
So I advocate for students as early as their senior year in high school to pick it up, only because that mindset can get ingrained before you hit the college campus. But it's never too late to start that path and to get strategic about your journey. So I'd say as early as the high school senior year, and I'd say as late as maybe junior year.
Okay, it's
junior
not too
year.
late.
Not too late.
So part of you writing the book, and you also speak. So, and part of that, collectively, you have your own company.
Yes.
So you're an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
Why did you decide to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I didn't decide. It kind of fell in my lap.
Okay.
And I call it actually a hybridpreneur because I do work full time.
Okay.
And I don't shy away from that conversation because I think it's something that someone should be proud about, that they're able to build a business while working full time. Obviously, the goal is to stand on one leg eventually, but if you have two legs to stand on, be proud about that. So I'm a hybridpreneur, and
I like
I fell into the business because I was working in a full-time role, which put me in front of audiences statewide in the state of Maryland, where I'm from. And I was overseeing a college preparation campaign statewide. I had been to every middle school in the state of Maryland, doing everything from conferences, workshops, basically pushing college preparation starting at the 6th grade. And people would ask me after the presentations were finished, hey, do you speak about anything else? Can you come to my girls' day? Can you talk to boys? Can you do this? And at first I would say no. I said, no, I just only talk about this. And eventually I got out of my shell and I said, you know what? Perhaps this could be my thing. And that was in 2013, and it just soared from there.
So at that time, were you were, had you already wrote the book, or this is the reason you wrote the book is because of that journey, going, speaking and being an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Was that like during the same time, or?
I would say when I started speaking in 2013, it was very general, and I was all over the place. I didn't have my particular story. The college strategy is my story about how I used my college experience to kind of jumpstart my career path so young. And so that's why I wrote the college strategy. More so, it was my story to share.
It was like a reflection, you
Yeah.
know, after being in, you know, in the speaking space for a little bit, you
Yes.
kind of figured out, hey, what did I do to get
Absolutely.
where I'm at? you
Yes.
know? And
Yeah.
you wanted to help others do the same thing, which is great. It's
Yeah.
great. If a student wanted to start a business, because I had a conversation with our daughter and our son and my husband, and we were talking about, you know, not letting your gifts go unnoticed, or not letting your gifts, you know, be kept to yourself. But at the same time, you can also use your gifts to make some money.
Yeah.
You should be able to monetize, you know, your gifts.
Yes.
So what would you say to students about starting their own business, looking at the gifts that they have, and, you know, really start thinking about how they can monetize that?
Absolutely. Well, I have a story about this. I have a 18-year-old sister. She's in her freshman year of college at Morgan State University
Okay.
in Baltimore, and she was. I think she had some issues with esteem. She was very pretty, but just kind of feeling, you know, not too certain about that.
Right.
And I asked her, you know, what are you good at? And she said she didn't know. So we took out a piece of paper and we did an inventory. And one of the things she wrote down was hair. I'm good at doing my hair. She had natural hair at the time. And I challenged her. I said, well, while you're doing your hair, can we make some money off that?
Right.
And she said, I don't know. I said, well, let's try and see. And so she started styling her hair, and every time she posts, she would post hair by Kinsey. Her name is Mackenzie.
Okay, okay.
And she used that hashtag for about 3 months, and it picked up some traction, and she started getting some clients. And she wasn't charging at first.
Right.
And then word got around the school, and then it just blew from there. Like, she had no free time.
Right.
And all of a sudden, she had all this cash.
Right.
I mean, she was buying UGG books left and right. And so I said, well, what about, this could be a business. Like, what about hair as a business? And she said, okay, so I'll try it. So she established her whole media presence.
Wow.
And it blossomed from there. And, you know, she purchased everything her senior year in high school, everything, from the prom dress, ticket, everything, the limo. In cash from the her business that she had started doing hair.
Wow.
So I tell students, you know, take an inventory,
Take that inventory.
of your skill set.
Absolutely.
And what are people willing to buy? And start there. Test out the market, test out your close friends, and see if it grows.
Right. You can only take that chance.
Yep.
Right. Try it out. But I love that, an inventory of what you're good at. And some people, I think, they have a difficult time trying to figure that out. But you really have to sit and think about it, and if you have to put it away for a little bit, do that
Yes.
and go back to it and just write that inventory. So that's a great,
Absolutely.
great suggestion. So you talk to students. We mentioned that before. What are some of the topics or some of the things that you talk to students about when you go? And you go everywhere.
Yes, there's no place I won't go.
That's right. So,
Unless it's unsafe, you know, perhaps, you know, if it's unsafe for me to travel there, then I won't go. But from college campuses, the high schools, middle schools, I don't turn them down. But I guess the general topic that I speak of is how can you get in the driver's seat of your journey?
Yeah.
So if you're in high school and your journey is to college, perhaps it's not college, it could be military, it could be trade school. How do you get in the driver's seat
How
of
do you
that?
get there?
Taking an active role.
Right.
And so for women, I do Drive Like a Girl, and basically break down some principles of how women can be ambitious and still show up, not aggressive, but show up, you know, with a little bit of force.
Right. And I think sometimes that's hard for women to kind of navigate,
There's
especially when you're younger.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So learning that balance and then
Right.
getting around other women who exhibit that. So there's Drive Like a Girl in the driver's seat of my college experience, and we'll learn a little bit about that today. The college experience in the driver's seat. So taking active role of that actual on-campus experience.
Exactly, which is
Those
so
are just a
important.
few.
Yeah, reading your book, I really, you know, it really sparked a lot in what students can do to make themselves marketable when they do, you know, graduate eventually and go for their career.
Absolutely.
So, again, you guys have to get the college strategy. It's an amazing book for any student that's planning to go to college, really, or is currently in college. So I thank you for that. You give excellent advice to students, and you were on my show before.
Yes,
we
I had
fun. We had a phone conference, which was great. So I'm glad that we now have a person-to-person interview. But one of the things that I love that you said in that interview was students need to connect your now for your later. And I love that phrase. What do you mean by that?
So I think there's this idea once you get onto your college campus, it's just smooth sailing, right? You kind of shift to neutral because you're finally there, especially if you're first generation. I'm here, nobody else has been here but me, so I'm here, and I'm just gonna make the best out of it. But while you're there, that time period is temporary, right? That 4 or 5 years,
Goes by
sometimes
like
6,
that.
it'll go by like this,
Right.
and there has to be some type of strategic planning so that you can be best positioned.
Yes.
Because we didn't send you there first generation for you to not come out and get a head start. The goal is for you to head start those people who perhaps weren't able to go. So there's some little things that you could be doing to kind of jump start that path for you. So yeah, thinking about, okay, I'm here now, but what does that look like? What do I want when I do obtain my degree? What do I want my head start to look like?
And it's being conscious of it.
Yes.
I mean, you could say that, you know, in just words, but you really have to take the action to do it, and be very cognizant of that, because it'll slip away.
It will.
You know, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, that goes by so quickly, and if you're not doing anything in those years, it's a wasted opportunity, or could be a wasted opportunity.
Absolutely. So many networks can be made, so many skills can be developed, and a lot of them without cost while it's available.
That's right.
So yes, very small things.
And colleges have a lot of opportunities for students as well to take advantage of, to be able to network. And networking, and I hope today you'll talk a little bit about networking with our students, because it's a skill that you must master.
Absolutely.
There's different ways to do it, but
absolutely, and I'd say if your career path, the goal that you're going in, if it's competitive and or very saturated, you definitely want to master that networking skill.
Right, definitely. So one of the quotes that I wanted to read, it deals with failure. And it's a quote by Oprah Winfrey. Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. So one of the things, and I know our students had some questions, you know, around this and some struggles that they may have as students. So at this time, I want to ask if there are any questions from our studio audience.
So what kind of student were you like in college?
So I always worked. I always had a part-time job. I was very engaged. I was a part of everything. I was the one freshman year signing up for every list. I don't know if you all are familiar with like an involvement fair where all the student groups come and they're lined up. I'm just signing up for everybody's, because everything looked interesting. And I'm going out to those events or groups and meeting those student leaders, just kind of getting a feel for what was available on my campus. So I'd say very curious, very engaged. I was very competitive. I wanted to be the leader of the groups that I was a part of, so I'd stay until those roles came up, and then I would apply.
You were just waiting for them to
I
open
was just
up.
waiting for them to open up. And I also took a few risks. I did a beauty pageant. I developed a drag show at my campus. It was fun. I was just very
engaged.
Very engaged. Yeah, very active and engaged.
So do you have any other questions from our audience?
What was your biggest failure or moment of defeat in college, and how did you overcome it?
Good question.
I'd say my biggest moment of defeat, and I talk about this often, sophomore year, I was a resident assistant, and you guys know those are the people who oversee the students in the dorms, and I was a darn good one at that. I pat myself on the back. I was a really good one at engaging my students and creating programming, and but I wasn't good at managing my peer leaders, the other RAs who were in my building. There were 12 of us. And there were senior RAs, those whom had been in that role for quite a while, and they were kind of like our mentors. And I clashed a lot with this one RA. Her name was Cassie. I still remember her name. And I thought she was a little bossy, a little aggressive. And I had a hard time following her leadership. And that came out vocally aggressive. It kind of made me the black sheep amongst my staff. It was unprofessional at times. And at 19, I guess I didn't know how to express my indifferences with someone. And I didn't know how to agree to disagree. And I learned the hard way. And by the hard way, I mean, when it was time for my review, my supervisor at the time, he went through the list. He said, man, this is outstanding, this is great. He got to the bottom. And when it was his time to check return or not return, he checked return. and he said not return, which meant I wasn't coming back as an RA.
man.
And he said, there's an opportunity for you to grow in being a better team player. And it hurt me to the core because that RA role, not only did I enjoy it, but it saved me about $8,000 off my tuition, although it was a lot of work, but it crushed my soul because I knew I was darn good at the job. But sometimes you can be good at something, but there's some other attributes that are, I guess, more valued in that environment. You have to be good at that too. And so I say that's my biggest moment of defeat because after that period had passed and everyone whom was rehired and were coming back and I'd see them across campus, I hung my head. I was embarrassed, to say the least, and kind of frustrated, you know. And so it was a challenging time. But I'll tell you what it taught me was it's okay to think differently and to process your thoughts and ideas differently. But just be very tactful about how you express that.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a way to approach
Absolutely.
situations, and that's a learning experience.
It
and it
was.
goes back to that failure is just, it makes room for growth,
Absolutely,
as
it
well.
does.
So we have time for one more question from our audience.
What was your biggest success in college, and how did it change you as a person and make you better? Impacted my life.
Oh man, I'd have to say completing that beauty pageant. That beauty pageant was, I know it's cliche, like, oh, okay, right, you're in a beauty pageant, so what? But I had not done anything like that before. I had no formal gown, I'd never been in a swimsuit in front of people. I didn't have a talent. I wrote a poem about my mom and that was my talent. I had never been in a business suit with like actual skin flesh stockings, so I had to go and purchase all those things. But it wasn't acquiring those things that made it, I guess, a success. It was actually getting up there and doing it and winning, right? And when I got up on stage from the Miss Black and Gold pageant, and I was nervous, my legs were shaking literally, but I killed it. In that moment, I killed it. And I tell people this all the time. They say, well, when did you realize you'd be a great speaker? And it was that moment in that beauty pageant. When those lights went on, they were brighter than this. I could barely see the people in the audience. All I can hear was my mom. She was screaming. And yeah, it was that moment, completing that beauty pageant was part of my journey. A really big milestone for me. Yeah.
And overcoming some of fears you may
Yes.
have had as well, doing something different,
It
doing
was
something new.
completely different
Right.
and new. And I tell students all the time, if you have an opportunity to explore
Just
something
do it.
new on your campus that's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Because who would have thought? I didn't think I'd be a great speaker.
Right.
And it turned out that, according to other people, not myself, but it turns out that I'm not so bad.
Right.
Not so
Yeah.
bad.
And you're very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we wrap up, I just want to ask you what's next. What events are coming up for you? What things are you getting into? Because I know you have great things ahead. So if you can just share some things that are going on.
Awesome. So the College Strategy book officially turning into a workbook
Okay.
for actually a curriculum to share with those who are in career development and college readiness programs, so that we can solicit those to high schools and college campuses, probably more so community colleges.
Okay.
So that's one. The other is a peer mentoring group for
Okay.
young ladies in my county. I live in Prince George's County in Maryland. And so many people took me alongside the way when I was in 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
So it's my turn to do
Great.
that.
That's the best time to really,
Yeah.
start working with students.
Definitely
in that
an
way.
influential age.
Absolutely.
So something I want to bring to my hometown, that mentoring program. And just a lot of speaking engagements, of course,
Good.
that keep me busy.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Linnita for being here today. I mean, it was a pleasure. We have some more of our program. It's going to be off camera, though. Linnita is going to be speaking to our SUNY Farmingdale students, and I want to thank them for being in the audience today. You guys were awesome. And again, Linnita, I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for bringing me.
And thank you for watching Conversations with Verdel Jones.